Hi there, it's Cassia Strub here with Music for Your Inbox, and today I get to talk to Jen Buersey, who is the co-founder of Music for Your Inbox. This is our info session for people who are interested in applying to the East Los Angeles Music and Sound Film Award.
Right, there she is. Hello, Jen.
Hi.
I just finished a little introducing, saying the name of the award, and this is our info session where we are going to chat about how the application process works and what people can expect on the other side of the application. I think it's important to say right out of the gate that the other side of the application is Jen and I. We are the two panelists reviewing everything. So now the mystery is unveiled.
Yeah, and if throughout this session anyone has questions, what would be really helpful to us is if you use, there's a little like talk bubble with a question mark in it. If you can put your questions there, that would be really helpful to us because then they won't like skim by the comments. We'll be able to see them. And if you're watching this session in a replay on YouTube or Instagram later, you can always DM us questions, add the questions in the comments, or just email us at hello@musicforyourinbox.com.
That's right. All right, so I guess the origins of this award are that Jen and I are the curators of Music for Your Inbox, and we're just looking to expand and grow our community and to learn about artists that we wouldn't necessarily come across in our day-to-day going to live shows and snooping around on the internet. So this is our way to open the doors and really let anyone apply.
Yeah, and it's funded by a grant from the East Los Angeles Arts Initiative, which is why it's geographically focused.
Yeah. Yes, that's right. For this specific funding, we are looking for artists who reside in East Los Angeles. All right. So, and also we are very grateful to the Eastside LA Arts Initiative. They've been very amazing to work with, and we are so grateful to them for the funding because it's allowing us to present these videos and mail art on our platform.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we are now going to walk through our application webpage. So it says we're accepting proposals for video work featuring artists living in Eastern Los Angeles County. And we understand that can sort of be somewhat hard to define. So what we would love for you to do is if you have a question as to whether or not you're eligible, you can just shoot us your zip code or an email and we can let you know. The other thing too is that if you feel like you connect with a lot of what we're saying and you just don't live in East LA, we do have an open call for works that you can just submit to anyhow. So there's lots of ways to reach us with your art. So the deadline for this application is March 1st. So you just have a little over a month to apply.
We'll be going through all the applications in the 2 weeks following that and letting everyone know what the results of their application are by March 15th. And then our plan would be to program your work shortly after the award notification. So this application is really best suited for projects that are nearly complete or complete. We're not asking you to begin and end a new project in this kind of quick turnaround because everyone's really busy. If that's your passion, you are still eligible to apply, but this is not really intended for people to just start the project today.
Right.
So, but eligibility, the top priority, one of the most important things for us is that music must be central to the video piece. And there are a lot of kind of names for this. We tend to call them music films or sound films, but those are kind of made up terms. The basic idea is that this is a piece where the music is equal to or of equal to importance to the video imagery. So we're not looking for archival footage of a performance or a documentary about music. Often things that are that we feature are things like a creatively filmed performance that reflects kind of elements that were involved in the performance, or a film that was made in response to a score, or some electronic pieces that have visual elements are very appropriate. The best way to figure out whether your idea fits with our programming is to look through our past archives, and we have those all available at musicforyourinbox.com/past. So you can see a trailer of every film we've put out so far and get an idea of, like, do I see me here?
Yeah, and I think even on the actual page, on the application page I'm looking at now, there are a couple of trailers that we've highlighted, and they're not there by accident. We specifically chose those four because we felt like that gives kind of an idea of the breadth of what we present. So click away to your heart's content. That should really point you in the right direction. We're really trying to make sure that people don't, waste their time applying for something. If you are in a rock band and you have a 2-minute music video that you've made, this is not the right place for that. Although I'm sure we would love to just see it in the world. We're trying to find the right fit for our platform. So the next thing here is the film must be 10 to 20 minutes in length, and it must not have been premiered. And what that means is a premiere is something we consider that it had like a public screening already, or that it lives for free on the internet currently via YouTube or Vimeo or on your website in some way where people can go and view it for free whenever, on demand, I suppose is the word I'm looking for. But if this is something that you have made as a part of a PhD program and you showed it to your advisor, that is not considered a premiere in our minds. Or if it's something that you're putting together from various work samples that you have submitted for grant applications, or that you've shown in some kind of academic institution once, we don't consider that a premiere either. And again, if you have, because everyone has very specific, needs and requirements, and I did this thing once, that's great, let us know. Just DM us or send us an email and say, this is my exact situation, what do you think? And we're happy to reply to that.
Another example of premiere that gets ambiguous is if maybe you've performed the piece live, but now you're creating a video version of it. We don't consider a standalone music piece that's been performed for audio live a premiere if the video format is going to be kind of an additional exploration of the sound in some way. Also, if you have a track from an album that's come out that you're going to set to a film in some way, we don't consider just the audio living by itself on the internet a premiere of the video work. And that's why it's so important that the video and the music are very equal and of importance in the piece, because we see it as a totally complete artwork to the audio alone or the live performance alone.
Yeah. Okay. So the next little point is kind of longish, and so I will read it. The film must feature artists living in Eastern LA County. Okay, so here's a list. Westlake Rampart, Downtown LA, to East LA, Northeast LA, Pomona Valley, San Gabriel Valley, and the Southeast Gateway communities of Bell Gardens, Commerce, Cuddy, Huntington Park, Maywood, Pico Rivera, Southgate, Vernon, Walnut Park Incorporated. So, of course, that was a giant list. If you are unsure of your eligibility, you can email us at hello@musicforyourinbox.com. It's quite far east, I will say, like LA County, I think is the key here, not LA City, in case you're wondering why Pomona is in that list.
I think for some people it'll be very clear whether you live in the location that qualifies, and for people who it's ambiguous, just reach out to us.
Yeah. Okay, so people are asking, in fact, there was a question that came in a while ago where somebody was asking if this was compensated, and yes, the film award is a $600 honorarium, so that is money attached to it. And in addition to this, your film will be premiered on Music for Your Inbox's virtual series for at-home on-demand streaming, which means that people who have paid for access to Music for Your Inbox films will receive an email, and that will have a link to your film. And if they open that email 18 times and press play, then they will watch your video 18 times. And so that's what we mean by on demand. We mean that it is not premiered at a specific date and time. People can watch it whenever they choose. And then in addition to that, we also have a live screening somewhere in Los Angeles. So we're planning 3 live screenings in 2023. And so it will be included on a film night of probably 2 to 3 other films, depending on the duration and also on the context and curation of each evening's work. So that would be an opportunity for you to come and see people enjoying your art live, which is a pretty cool experience.
Yeah, and then the next section is important information, and a kind of good segue from that is all of MFYI happens virtually. So it's an important thing to know. So you are not expected to attend any in-person events, but obviously you're welcome to come to the screening if you're available. But the entire process will unfold, except for the in-person screening, virtually and asynchronously. So you don't have to be at a place at a specific time, which can be very helpful to some people's circumstances. Other important things to know, we require exclusive presentation rights of your work for a period of 1 year after its premiere. And we get a lot of questions about what exactly that means. And it really goes back to this idea again of like the music film being its own piece of art where the visuals and the music are really integrated. And that piece of art that you present to us we would have exclusive presentation rights to that for a year. So things that wouldn't be included in that exclusivity would be, for example, if you wrote a piece and then created a film about it, the piece of music can be performed live as much as you want. We don't want your piece to be locked away like that. It would only be the video film version that you made that would be exclusive. Also, if you are making a film off of a track of a piece of audio that you've recorded, you can include that piece of audio in an album. You can have that on your SoundCloud. It would be that piece of audio combined with the visuals that we would want exclusive presentation rights to. Another thing is you would be able to use your combined video music piece that you submit for applications, for any kind of private submission process where you would use it as a work sample or a way to present yourself, but not public ones, just private ones. And then we also just like to let everyone know that like if an opportunity arises in that 1 year period where it would be beneficial to you to present that work publicly in some way, we're always open to hearing about that and to having that conversation, because our goal is to make sure people see the art and it gets out there. So it's not a hard and fast rule. We're always open to a conversation about these things to make sure the art is served and has a great life after its premiere on Music for Your Inbox.
All right. So then we get to this point about we support a curious and engaged audience. And we say we talk a lot about the work. Please review our social media to see if this fits your artistic goals. What this means is we will be asking you for photos that we can share on Instagram that would talk about your practice. You would have complete say over what these images are. We aren't going to share things that you do not give us permission to share, but we do need something to work with. So, and we tend to we make jokes about the sort of like the Eye of Sauron points at you, and we talk about you, and we like to interview you on Instagram and let your community know what you're up to and let ours get a chance to meet you. So if you are a person for whom this would feel really, really uncomfortable, that would be something to talk about right at the outset, so that we could figure out a way that we can still talk about your art without you feeling uncomfortable, and just, setting up expectations before we begin. So that's why we like to have that little point there.
Great. So next we'll dive right into the application itself, which again, you can preview or just go straight to the Google form. So we're just going to walk through it. So really, it just begins with some basic information, your name, email address, artist roles. And so what we say there is, please list all artists involved in this project and their roles. If you're applying as an individual, please list yourself and your roles in this project. So for example, you may be an artist collective or a team of a couple people who have created this piece together. You would list everyone who's involved. Just choose one person to be the applicant. It doesn't matter to us, but that person would need to reply to our emails on your behalf.
Yes.
And then list everyone who's involved in their roles. So for example, you may have a composer and a performer and a filmmaker, and the three of you have collaborated on this creation. You would list out those people's names and that they were the composer, the performer, and the filmmaker. If you're one person and you did everything, you can list yourself and say, I composed, performed, and filmed this piece. However the breakdown works, and it can be messy, that's fine with us. We just kind of need to have an idea of who's involved, generally what did they do. This is not going to be something that is clad in stone and printed on the film or anything.
Right.
We just kind of need to understand as we go through the application who and what is going on.
So then we ask for your website or relevant social media links. This question is optional. So if you don't have those things, you can skip it. But if you do have those things, it'd be great to include them so we can have a better picture of who you are and what you're up to. And then this next question is required because of the fact that the funding for this particular award is linked to a specific project of serving East Side LA artists. So we're asking for your location. We say name, role, zip code, and neighborhood city. So role, what we mean by that is you would say, like, Cassia Streb is the violist and she lives in blah blah zip code in blah blah neighborhood, if that makes sense. So the role is connected to that first question. So again, if it's just you, you do just you. And if it's other people, that could be really helpful to us. So if you're a collective and one of you lives in East Los Angeles and that person is not the best at email, and another person lives in West Los Angeles and is great at email, it is fine if the West Los Angeles is the applicant, so long as there is an East Los Angeles artist who is very centrally involved in the art making part of the project. The next part is eligibility, which is 3 check boxes, and you must click each one. So it's sort of reminding you of our requirements. One says, my proposed film is 10 to 20 minutes long. So we really hope that you didn't get all the way down here only to realize that you didn't qualify, but you have to have it 10 to 20 minutes long. My proposed film has not been premiered. I think we talked pretty exhaustively about what that can mean. My proposed project features at least one artist currently living in East Los Angeles County. And so that is what I was just mentioning a moment ago. And then we have, how did you hear about this open call? And so you can write whatever you want in that line. And it just helps us, because we are just a 2-person team, to better understand where to put our resources. That's the only thing that question serves.
Great. And so then you click through to the next section of the application, which is the project information. And there are 3 questions in it. First, we want you to tell us about your proposed project, about 250 words. We do not count words. We don't want you to spend time chopping out 3 words here and there. Just be as concise as you can. Remember, it's 2 people reading this, getting through the applications, and be as clear as you can to describe what you're proposing to us, maybe that would include a description of the inspiration behind the project, what it looks like or will look like if it's incomplete, any kind of relevant information, how it came together, that get us a really clear idea of like, what is this thing and why did you make it? And we left that really, we left it really open ending because there's such a wide variety of the ways people are making art here. So describe it best for what you are doing so that we can understand it. What were you going to say, Cassia?
I was thinking often it helps people to think of like themes that they are using that are involved. That kind of has helped get people jump started in our other open call. So if you can discuss, like, I'm interested in this theme and this is how I'm investigating that, or, you know, whatever you started with and how it grew from there can help you just get going with the writing part of it. And so we would recommend, Jen and I apply for grants clearly because that's how we're funding this. And we often take all of the questions and put them in a separate doc, and that's where we sort of hash out our answers. You're welcome to do this in the Google form, but you might be happier if you have a moment to yourself and just kind of copy and sort of just, we say like word barf or whatever, and just kind of get all your ideas out there and then edit them down to about 250 words would be great.
And it's important to know the Google form cannot save your information. So if you're doing it live in the Google form and your internet goes down and crashes the thing, it will be gone. So another good reason to work on this maybe outside of the form. So because we won't be able to help you if that happens.
I know. Well, we'll commiserate with you and we will feel all of the feelings with you, but we can't help you recover the information.
Yes.
We have a question here that says, tell us about yourself in about 200 words. And then we say, no, really, tell us about yourself or your group. Please do not submit a bio. And what we mean by this is that if you submit, you know, a long list of every award you've ever won and every university you ever went to and every person you've ever worked with, that's not really helping us very much because Jen and I might not know those people or those universities or those awards. And so it's really helpful for us to have like actual sentences that convey meaning about what you're into. And I think just because artists, I mean, at least Jen and I tend to work in kind of cycles, and there's sort of material that we're examining at a specific moment in time. And then there's things that we've done in the past that have nothing to do with what we're doing right now. So I think we really focus on what you're working on right now and what are things you're interested in right now. And you don't have, I mean, you can mention the university you went to, but you certainly don't have to have any kind of artistic training to get this award. We're really looking at what does the video look and sound like. So if you have no formal training, that's fine. You don't even have to mention that or not mention that. I think that's pretty much what we mean by no bios.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a really good supplement, basically, if you think of, you know, the telling us about your project and telling about us about yourself as like partner questions, mm-hmm. where we get to know what you're presenting and who you are. Get us just as best a description of that as you can. And then finally, we ask, how is Music for Your Inbox a good home for your work? And that's a question that just helps us understand how you see it, you know, being a part of the life cycle of your work. So for example, we've had many multimedia projects that take, you know, kind of sprawling life cycles where things live as a piece of sound and then a video, or people who have really in between music practices where, you know, the concert hall isn't right for them, and maybe, you know, the film screening world isn't right for them or something. You can just kind of think about like, why are you interested in presenting your piece in this way? It helps us understand the project better, and also see that you understand how our platform works and how it could work for your piece.
Yeah, I think sort of just a quick example of that is like, you know, the month we just released in January featured a piece that involved a lot of like really close-up shots of what the performer was actually doing that you never would have seen in a concert hall. So that would be something that John Eagle, who was a composer and the person who submitted that proposal to us, would have highlighted in his application, is that he would have said, I have designed an instrument that requires really close attention, and I think it'd be very cool for the audience to see exactly what the performer is doing with these close-up shots that they cannot do in a real performance. In a live performance. So that is an example of like why it's a good home kind of a thing. Or if you say, I write music that is too long to be considered pop music. It is 11 minutes long, and so I need a home for something that is too long to be pop music, but is still music. And so those are the kinds of things we're asking for. I'm just trying to illustrate a little bit, because that question can be kind of like, it sounds kind of like out there, like, why is it a good home? But we actually mean like really specific things with it. And if you get stuck on a question, you can email us or DM us or, you know, whatever you want to sort of reach out, because we don't want anybody to sit there and get all the way to question number 10 and then fall apart.
Yeah. And then once you do get to question 10, you get to the next section of the application, which is the work samples. The most important thing to note here is only one work sample is required. You can submit up to 3. We only require 1. The other really important thing to note is this is not really a portfolio request. We don't need to get necessarily an idea of like the breadth of what you create or representation of you as an artist. What we're looking for in the work sample is pointing us to what your final film will look like. So that might be just submitting the final film that you've already finished and you're looking for a home for. And then you can just tell us, this is the final film. And there would be no need to submit other work samples. Just that one would be totally fine. Or maybe you have a section of it done, or just the audio done, and you can submit those kind of pieces of it. And there's an option, there's a box where you can describe what you've submitted to us, so we understand what we're looking at and how it relates to your proposed project. Another option would be if you've made a piece that's similar in style to the thing you're submitting. That would be a great work sample to submit, and then explain to us that this isn't the actual video. This is very similar though to the kind of video I'll create, and these are the ways it's similar, or a good sample of what you would be seeing. So yeah, I think the most important thing is to remember this is not like a portfolio of who you are, and there's really no benefit in filling all 3 work samples just to fill them. This is all about like what are we going to see for your final work?
Yeah, the reason we have 3 is because we want to allow you to submit like, oh, this is the audio and here is a video with audio, but it'll look kind of like this, and then here is an image that I'm inspired by, so that they're all pointing at one thing. We're not asking for 3 so that you're saying, well, here's a movie I made 10 years ago, and here's one I made 5 years ago, and here's one I'm making this week. That it doesn't strengthen you. More is not more gooder. It sort of maybe gets a little cloudy and confusing. I'm thinking of a specific example that worked really well with us. We had an artist named Nat Evans who submitted a video that they'd made in the past of a kind of documentary style collection of images, and then talked about the themes that would be included for the new video. So it was saying, here's the sort of theme of the new video, here's the duration, and here is a past example of something that is not the same, but pretty close to what I will be submitting. And we said yes, and we presented that film.
Well, and so I think that this is a good time if there are any questions that have shown up in the question box or that you have. We can also, I think, Cassie, it'd be useful to go through our FAQ questions because they are truly frequently asked questions. Some of them we've hit on before, but I think it would be good to just go over them. So we have at the bottom of our musicforyourinbox.com/apply, the very bottom, there's an FAQ. It covers a lot of truly the frequently asked questions. So for example, what do you mean by featured artists? Because in this award, there must be a featured artist from East LA. And what we mean by that is your whole team doesn't have to be from East LA, but there has to be one person who is very prominently involved in the project who is from East LA. That could be the composer, the performer, the filmmaker.
We're looking sort of for like a lead creative role, and maybe not a person who is a production assistant on the film. The next question is, how do you define Eastern Los Angeles County? I read that list earlier, so I don't want to bore you again. And again, if you are confused, please email us. Or not, it's not that you would be confused, it's that Jen and I are also kind of every now and then going like, well, is this tiny little shoe-shaped bit of LA considered East or West? And so those kinds of edge cases, I think, are what we're looking for. If you feel like you might be an edge case, that's okay. Just email us and let us know, and we will hopefully answer it.
And the next one is how do you define premiere, which we went over earlier, but just to kind of summarize, again, this is something that has not lived for free on the internet, like on YouTube, been published on YouTube or your website or something like that, and has also not been formally presented by either an in-person or a screened virtually. The exception being parts of your project, like if you have a composition and only the composition has been premiered, but not the film version, that would not be, we would not consider the film having been premiered. So that is what we mean. And if you're not sure, before applying, just ask us. Don't spend all of the time applying and cross your fingers. Just send us a quick email, explain your situation, and we'll let you know very clearly whether we consider it premiered or not.
We have what do you mean by music being central to the video piece? Again, I think we covered that before, but we're talking about most of the films that we have made started with a musical idea, and then we figured out how to visualize, how to create visuals to go along with this musical idea, or we actually filmed a live performance, but in a really creative way. And then some others I'm like thinking of now. It's kind of neat, actually. I have all the videos in my mind right now. And one of them I'm thinking of is kind of a collage of audio and then a collage of video, and they were both assembled in like a similar way so that the sound is really equal to the film in that regard. And then, of course, review our past work if this is still feeling confusing. Do you want to do the next one?
Yeah, sure. The next one is, what genres of music do you program? It says here, I'm just kind of read it. We broadly and messily describe the music we present as experimental. So again, the best way to answer this question is to look at our past works. It's not an unsurmountable list, but it's a big enough list that you really do get a strong idea of the kinds of music we present. Improvisation, electronic music, strange instruments, objects that are used as music, unconventional scores, music that's really situated in a specific place. Those kind of are some broad buckets of music that we have presented. Do you really think about like how your music would relate to some things that you already see, or maybe send us ask us your questions. Again, contact us with your questions so you don't spend time on something that wouldn't work out. So
the next one says, I haven't started my project yet. Should I apply? And the answer really depends on you. If you are a person who works, fast and furious, and you get an inspiration and you have buckets and heaps of time and you want to put something together, great. You should definitely apply. If you're a person whose practice is more slow and drawn out and you would need more time and this would feel awful, don't apply. Get your idea further along and then reach out to us in a year or whatever the timeline is for you. Jen and I have borrowed some phrases along the way, and one of them is art is not an emergency, and we are not interested in creating an emergency in your life. If you're a person who seeks drama and emergencies, that is fine. That is you. That's part of your practice. But we're not here to force that on you. And also, this will come around again. Like they're maybe not specifically East Side, but there will be other calls for work. So if this feels like a yes, I want to motivate myself to do this, then absolutely, you should do it.
Yeah, and I think really specifically, here's the timeline. The deadline for applications is March 1st. You'll be notified by March 15th, and then the final film completed will be due on May 15th. So that's 2 months, which in the film world and the production world is just not a lot of time, and we completely recognize that. So please use your judgment when you're kind of proposing things. What we really don't want you to do is to, from zero right now, create a video and then submit that to us on the kind of hope that we present it, because that's a lot of labor and time on your part, and we really want to respect that. So things that are already in progress, looking for a home, or things that you feel really confident you could fit in that timeline, it would work with your process, are good.
So then we have, is there flexibility with the project timeline? And this is something we've been mentioning all along. If you're working on a project that may not be finished by May 15th, 2023, please submit your proposal to our general inquiry portal. So that is the thing that I have been messily calling an open call the whole time, but it's actually a general inquiry. And it is a form on a portal that is very similar to the one we just reviewed in terms of length and all that kind of stuff.
And then the next one is, how strict is the exclusivity agreement? And we tried to kind of describe that some again when we described what we mean by exclusivity earlier, but just to briefly reiterate, we ask for a year of presenting exclusivity, and that means for the completed full music film piece, not it in its parts. So if you're going to take the audio and put it on an album, fabulous. If you're going to creatively restructure the video for an interactive live performance, great. If you're going to screen the video live in person, as it's kind of, that's not okay. Unless it's a great opportunity for you and you ask us in advance and we work it out, because we don't want you to miss out on great things and opportunities. But the idea is that that for 1 year after the premiere on Music for Your Inbox, we're generally the sole presenter. And also, if you need to submit it for application as a work sample, that's completely fine.
I think it's really pointing specifically to, once the video is out, it doesn't just go and live on your website the next day for free where anyone can see it. I think that's kind of the more common thing that we're looking to avoid. Okay, and then it says, the last question in our FAQ says, what are you looking for in a work sample? So again, we touched on this earlier, but to be really clear, the ideal work sample is a finished or nearly finished version of the film you're proposing to Music for Your Inbox. So again, if you are going to be the person who's doing a marathon and sprinting through this, like, realize you don't sprint a marathon, but at any rate, if you're the person who's in 8 weeks going to make a movie, your work sample should be what you're starting with. So it could be images you're starting with and the audio you're starting with, or whatever has kind of inspired you to begin this film. If your work is unfinished or hasn't begun, you may submit in progress excerpts or samples. So that's what we were talking about, similar to work you've already finished. Don't think of this as a portfolio of your work. We are hoping to get a clear sense of how your proposed project will look and sound. So if you're a person who has a lot of diverse interests and you do amazing sound walks out in nature, and you also do sound baths in a yoga studio, and you make beautiful films in black and white using some kind of technique that I don't even know how it works, you don't need to worry about the sound bath and the nature walk component of your practice. It is really important as to who you are, but for our review purposes, we would really like to point specifically at the film that you're making. And we understand that people are multi-hyphenate and complex beings, and we love that about all of you. We just need to see the work that points specifically to the video we'll present. And then once we get into the Instagram sort of month of you, we will talk about every little thing you've ever done artistically, and it'll be really exciting and a rich experience for everyone to learn more about all facets of your practice.
Yeah, and also if you're even maybe someone who's not multi-hyphenate who does something very specific, we don't need to see proof that you've been doing this for a long time through these work samples where you're like, here's a piece from 10 years ago, here's a piece from 5, and here's what I'm working on now, if they don't relate to the project you're specifically proposing in a really direct way, like, this is a film I made in the style of a film I'm going to make for you, or that's in progress.
Yes, because I think the reason we're kind of banging on about this is because in the past, we've gotten one work sample from someone and had a lot of clarity and felt really confident moving forward. And we've also gotten other proposals where we get 3 samples and they're all pointing in different directions. And then there's only text describing what the video for us would be. And then we start to get into this, well, if it's like number 1, no, but 2, maybe, with a hint of 3. And we just start to kind of like, I don't even know what the word for it, but we get confused and it gets harder to program and harder to say yes. So please give us a reason to say yes, because that's what we want.
Yeah.
Okay,
well,
I think
any
that
other
covers our,
questions?
well, there was kind of a couple here that from IG stickers that I think we wanted to go over.
Yeah.
Somebody said, can I submit a 5-minute abstract video for my music environmental justice piece? And yeah, that's a tricky one, right? Because it's only 5 minutes. Because
this would be like, this would be a topic that's
feed.
so perfect for us,
Yeah.
but the length doesn't fit our needs. So it would work if it was kind of, you know, if you had a collection of 3 5-minute videos that you wanted to share as a triptych. Amazing. That's very, very cool. And that they show different angles of environmental justice. That's really interesting to us. But one submission of 5 minutes isn't going to work for this call.
But it is worth sending to the general inquiry, because in the past, or coming up, I guess, in February, we will be showing a short and then a slightly longer film. But the funding that we have laid out and the way we have the budget organized, it probably wouldn't work for this. But I'm really interested in this topic, and it sounds kind of like an amazing proposal, and so we don't want to lose you. So what would be more general inquiry? The other one says, are you paying? Do we get a stipend? And the answer is yes. It's $600. So yeah, I don't know if there's any other questions. We certainly left some time and space for those. People can feel free to DM us if you're watching this as a replay, or email us at hello@musicforyourinbox.com if you're watching it on YouTube.
Perfect.
All right. Did you have anything else to say, Jen?
I can't think of it. I'll think of it later when I'm trying to sleep and regret that I didn't say it.
You could just add like a little tag on the YouTube video. You with the flashlight. And I wanted to say. All right. Well, thank you for watching. And we really hope you do apply. And we hope to hear from you if you have any questions or if you need some support as you move through the application process. So we'll see you in our inbox. Thank you.